Hey there to everybody watching the replay. We're going to go ahead and let everybody in, but welcome. All right, we should have some people coming in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, not welcome that fast. Hold on. Oh no. Hold on, go back. Hey everyone, I got my tech fail out of the way. It's good to see you, and it's doing it again. Oh my goodness. So hold on one second, y'all. It is. I love tech. Well, Colleen, it's good to see you.
Great to see you too, and great to see some familiar names as well.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you all could join us to do an AMA about PCOS Power. And, you know, something that I just want to say is that, you know, a big part of this is explaining the new course that I have, but I also hope you end this meeting walking away with something, whether you decide you want to buy this new course eventually or not. Like, I hope you walk away with just feeling more powerful in your next steps living with PCOS. And as you are getting settled, feel free to use the chat throughout this hour. And if you could also let us know where you're located, you know, where you are watching this from. And it's really cool to see like where all over the world people are. So let us know in the chat. And Colleen's going to be kind of the person taking care of the chat for us. And so if you have questions along the way, she'll kind of gather them. So feel free to plop them in there and we'll do our best to answer everything. So as you're coming in, I'm hearing more doorbells. I know I'm the only one that can hear them, but I can hear them. So I know more of you are here. So welcome to the AMA, the Ask Me Anything about PCOS Power. And like I said, put your location in the chat if you feel comfortable, just to let us know where you are watching this from. And let's get started. So if you don't know me, if you're new to my work, my name is Julie Duffy Dillon. I 15 years ago was sitting in my boss's office sobbing, and that's when I decided I could never teach another diet. I had finally really seen the how anti-fat bias was just so harmful in healthcare, and I was like, I can't unsee it. So now I help people with PCOS to move away from the shame and the blame, to find ways to connect, to promote more energy, to improve insulin resistance, and all the other symptoms that you experience with PCOS. And the really cool thing is that you can definitely burn those diet books and reclaim like the expert role of your body. And if you may have known me from my podcast is called Find Your Food Voice. It was previously called the Love Food Podcast. I just changed the name. Or you also may know me from Instagram, and my handle there is Food Voice RD. And I'm really excited to even have this chance, like I said at the beginning, in case you just got here, I'm really excited just to like share some of my thoughts about living with PCOS without diets, in case it's a new conversation for you, a new idea, or maybe this is not a new idea, but you're just wanting some new ways to do that while rejecting diets and living with PCOS. I hope you end this time with me just having some more ideas and feeling more powerful. So with that all being said, I want you to know Colleen. Colleen is the professional hype master? No, not master. Professional hype. How would you describe yourself? You just
like
hype.
Professional hype woman extraordinaire.
There it is. That is
no big deal. I really love getting folks excited about body acceptance, and now in this PCOS space, understanding more symptoms that folks go through and helping just support people that are experiencing this. So love being here. I love a lot of what I do is helping support customer service wise, behind the scenes operations. And it's been such a great experience. And I'm seeing some familiar names on here as well. So also just getting, expanding my own community of wonderful folks. So happy to be here.
I am so glad you're here. And thank you for helping me out today. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
my pleasure. So before I launch into the table of contents, just want to shout out some of these answers. Welcome from Mexico City. Hello, Melissa, South Africa. Great to see you again. Susanna, Manchester, UK. We've got folks all over the place. Melanie,
Love
Asheville,
it.
North Carolina. I got married in Asheville. So soft spot in my heart there. Cool. Rhode Island. Yasmin from Glasgow, Scotland, and Anna, New York, just to name a few folks on the call. So wonderful to see you from all over the place. So today we're going to launch into a story about some folks with PCOS and their experience, and talk a little bit more about why you don't have to diet, and why living with PCOS isn't necessarily a diagnosis that means you have to diet. We're going to also, of course, talk about PCOS Power, which we are so excited to do, about some of the features and pricing, and then answer any and all questions that you have about what the next steps might look like for you, and if something's still uncertain by the end of this AMA.
Awesome. Thanks, Colleen.
Yeah.
All right. So first up, I want to share Trinity's story with you. And Trinity and TJ, the two stories I'm going to be sharing with you, just a heads up, a content warning, so you can take care of yourself however you need. There is some medical anti-fat bias and other forms of discrimination that are going to be described. So if you need to mute for a little bit or fast forward, or just, do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. And, as a part of living with PCOS, I know these are things that you encounter all the time, but I also just wanted to give you that heads up. But when I met with Trinity the first time, I remember welcoming her into my office. She sat down on my green couch just behind me. And I said what I would say to any client, what brought you here today? And she started to tear up. And she told me that she just didn't know what to do next. She had been dieting for as long as she could remember and done the thing that so many people have done, losing 10 pounds, gaining back 15, and doing that over and over and over again. And when she was in college, she got diagnosed with PCOS. And that's where the healthcare system really started to push her even more into dieting. And eventually, like many of you probably listening, she just stopped going to the doctor because she kept hearing the same advice, here's birth control, lose weight, and that's all I have for you. So she just stopped going. It felt like a waste of time and it was traumatic. So eventually, though, her and her partner wanted to start a family and she wasn't ovulating. So she needed to get help. So she went to a doctor, and that's where she found out she had prediabetes. And the doctor basically yelled at her. I mean, that's something that I remember. She's like, he yelled at me that I needed to cut out carbs and sugar, and that it was my fault that I had the prediabetes and that I was struggling with fertility. And I was devastated hearing this. And I know the other side of that, that's really, really hard and sad, is that's a really normal story. And the thing about it is she really, really wanted to promote fertility, and yet had tried all this dieting and it never seemed to stick. And she just didn't know what else to do. Then somebody else I wanted to share with you is TJ. And TJ is someone that is a social worker and was someone who was proudly fat positive for many, many years when they consulted with a surgeon to get top surgery. And the surgeon did a workup, diagnosed the PCOS, and then unfortunately said that they would not be able to do the surgery until TJ was at a lower BMI. And what a horrible place to be in, and to be able to finally get gender affirming care and to feel at home in their body, but yet denied because of their size, and feeling really kind of in this place of what do I do? I know dieting doesn't work for me, and I know it hurts other people, but what do I do? And these are two experiences that may feel really different, but also are really common in conversations with people with PCOS that I've had over the last 20 years. Some people are really new to the idea of not dieting, and some people have been doing it for longer than I've even been aware about what anti-dieting even is, and yet still experiencing this kind of either like tornado kind of experience of like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do next, and really needing support. And so what I asked both of these people, and I ask you now too, is a really important question, is if you're not really sure about what your next steps are living with PCOS and whether to try to change your eating in a certain way, I think it's really important to ask yourself, how many diets have you tried to manage your PCOS? So let us know in the chat the number. I prefer not naming the types of diets, just, to keep it a little safer for people who may be triggered by that, but just the number of times that you have tried to diet with PCOS. And Colleen, if you see any numbers come across that you're like, is it just one or two? Or are there some that are like 10, 20, 30, or like I have since preschool? Like that's something that I hear at least once a week. Can you imagine that small, that young, being told to restrict is unfortunately really, really common. So yeah, how many times have you tried to manage your PCOS with dieting? And it's a really important question to ground you in your own data. That's something that's really important as you're trying to decide what to do with managing PCOS, is like your own lived experience is really important scientific data. I know we have researchers and doctors who are like, this is what the research says, and this is what you should do. But if you've tried something for 20 years or 10 years or even 5 years and it didn't like work for you, or it was harmful to you, or you see that it's hurt other people, that's really great, important data. That's better than research because it's like actually yours. And it's something that I encourage everyone to really connect with, especially because like diet culture is not going anywhere. And so you may find yourself in that space, and asking this question will help you to reconnect with what is important for you.
So it looks like on average, have kind of chimed in and said between 5 and 10 diets primarily. There are a handful of folks that have said above 10. Someone also indicated that each time less successful than the last, which I think is important to note.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Colleen, thank you for telling me that. That is certainly the experience for people without PCOS too, but I think it's just even more significant. And there are certain diet plans and like companies that are really pushed on people with PCOS in particular. I will not name any names, but Oprah Winfrey may be a part of it. and there's certain ones that can really seem to change people's weight the first or second time. But then after that, with PCOS especially, it seems to just not have any ability to do that. And I know you're just pushed to keep on trying and trying and trying. And it just not having the kind of like anymore. And as we'll go through today, there's some reasons why that happens. There's reasons why that happens to anyone, even if you have PCOS or not. But with people with PCOS in particular, there's some physiology that makes that happen sooner. So there are some people that I work with who will, when I ask them like how many diets have they tried, and they may give me a low or a high number, but there'll be some buts there. And I want to share some with you, and in case they resonate with you as you're like kind of looking at your own data. Many people have told me what this first bubble says here: if I don't diet, I will just crave carbs and binge all day. And I appreciate that the way healthcare has trained you to not trust yourself around food, and having higher insulin and inflammation, it provokes every cell in your body basically need to have energy, because we need energy to stay alive as humans. And we get that energy primarily through glucose, which of course comes from carbs and sugar. And when one restricts it and finally gets some of it, it's like if you're holding your breath and you finally let yourself breathe, you don't just like have a little handful, whatever the portion is supposed to be. You like have a lot of it because you haven't been breathing. So you're taking in more than it's typical. And what I have found is PCOS cravings end up having kind of, there's kind of like two different types. There's cravings that are like constant. And then there's also cravings that are random, that will just be kind of consistent with something else going on. And those constant kind of cravings, what I noticed that they're connected to is very high circulating insulin levels. And once people find tools to lower insulin, that's without dieting, it's just looking at things to add to your life or boundaries in a different space, doing that kind of place of like, oh my gosh, I'm craving and binging all day. It takes away kind of the primal kind of pull to do that, because that's what happens when insulin levels are high. Like every cell in your body is demanding carbs. And so if you allow your body to get energy from food by helping to lower insulin, it's different. And so basically what I'm trying to say is the dieting just makes that worse and it makes the cravings more intense. And also then the diet culture blames you for the experience when really it's the dieting that's making it worse, along with living with PCOS. So I want to move to the second one, but the second one, the person said, I have diabetes, so now I have to diet. And let us know in the chat if you are living with diabetes or prediabetes. I know a lot of people are. And besides getting diagnosed with PCOS, getting diagnosed with diabetes or fatty liver disease, those are the three diagnoses that have I feel like the biggest kind of magnetic pull to diet culture that I know of. And when you are already living with PCOS and get diabetes or get diagnosed with it like Trinity did, it can be something that even if you already are like maybe like TJ and really firmly against diet culture, it can be really scary and fearful, like, oh my gosh, like I have to do something. And what is unfortunate is that the anti-diet kind of like looking into like intuitive eating and into anti-diet, it may feel like giving up or not doing anything, but we all know how seductive diet culture is, like how it's like so sneaky and slimy. And so it's really important to know that being aware of intuitive eating and anti-diet things is something that takes a lot of active work. It's not something that you're giving up. It's something that is a lot of work. And so you can have diabetes and fatty liver disease and PCOS and not diet. Like all these things that I talk about here still apply to you. All right, so the last one I have on here is I want to get pregnant in the next 5 years. And I heard that my town's reproductive endocrinologist does not work with people over a certain BMI. And this kind of reminds me of TJ's story, but it is something that I know the town that I live in, it's something that happens and it's really discriminatory. I mean, there's no other way to describe that. And so what I think is really important to just name is, for me, anyone who works with me, anyone in PCOS Power, body autonomy is number one. And we do know some research that short-term dieting does something to like egg quality. Doesn't necessarily promote more live births, but it does improve egg quality and lower insulin. And accessing surgery is something that like is only your decision. And I think we all need to work hard to change healthcare so there's no longer that kind of discrimination. But you may also find that if you're in that place that PCOS Power is not the right place for you, just because like it's your body, you get to decide what you're going to do with it. And you're getting like literally oppressed in the moment and you want to have a child, like that's a big deal. So I think it's always important to honor, like if someone decides that that's what they're going to do, that's your decision. And I would never criticize that. I will criticize the doctor for pushing you to that place. And I will be really angry and say curse words at diet culture, but never at the person making that decision. And I have a feeling y'all would agree with that too. All right. So I think it was like 10 years ago, I wrote a blog post that was called "Don't Touch Diets with a 10-Foot Pole." And it was specifically written about PCOS. And it was this like conglomeration of all the things that I was noticing that doctors were telling people to do. And I was like, I need to have this somewhere so people can find this information faster, because it's taking too long for people to find intuitive eating and PCOS work. And so over the years, I have added to it, and something like I was just mentioning about like ovulation and insulin levels. What we know is that short-term dieting, and honestly, any diet, it doesn't matter which one, any of them seem to improve some PCOS symptoms. So you may notice like hair growth changing a little bit. You may notice egg quality being better. If you have long cycles, your cycles may be shorter. And insulin levels and blood sugar, they may go lower for the first 2 to 3 months. Short-term PCOS research, sadly, is 6 weeks long. If you can imagine that, 6 weeks. Technically, long-term PCOS research is 12 weeks long, which I'm like, 3 months is not long-term. Like, that's pretty ridiculous. What long-term research in like the nutrition world is supposed to be 2 to 5 years long. And we don't have any nutrition research currently studying nutrition and PCOS that is that long-term. But we do have some data that's basically in the 2018 evidence-based guidelines on PCOS. They reported that there has not been found, we have not found a diet, any diet that helps most people with PCOS long-term. Like it clearly states that, but then unfortunately it goes on to say, so just choose anyone, which I'm like, that was just like the evidence of the anti-fat bias within the committee who wrote this, these guidelines. I'm like, the data is right there. So why are you recommending any diet if there's none that actually help? And here's the thing that I don't think they've connected with. When we look at general population research, the long-term data, that is 2 to 5 years out, whether you stay on the diet or not, like you could stay on it the whole time, or you can go on and off of it. Long-term dieting causes, which is a big word in nutrition research, causes higher insulin, inflammation, blood pressure, blood sugar, and A1C. And that's the part when I was like writing this 10-foot pole blog post, I was like, we need to make sure people know this, that like long-term dieting actually makes PCOS symptoms worse, not better. I honor that in the short term, it does some really great things, but in the long term, it actually makes it worse. And most people that I've worked with PCOS have experienced an eating disorder. And we do know that people with PCOS are 4 times more likely to experience an eating disorder. And most of the people with PCOS that I've worked with actually have anorexia nervosa, not bulimia or binge eating disorder, which I don't know if that surprises you, but I think there's a lot of data on binge eating disorder in PCOS. There's not with anorexia. And I think it's because of the anti-fat bias within researchers, because many people would come see me with binge eating disorder and PCOS. But then when I talked to them, I was like, this isn't binge eating disorder, this is anorexia. And so I think there's some issues that we are seeing in just even what's available in the research. But there was some research published in the last 5 years that showed that dieting predicted binge eating for most people with PCOS. And so again, it's really important to be aware of that, like have that informed consent. If you do diet, maybe to be able to access surgery or reproductive medicine, because of the discrimination, it could also provoke binge eating or another eating disorder, and also like it very well could cause more issues with your PCOS down the line. Okay, so Colleen, what do you think?
Yes, I mean, I've been through PCOS Power now once before with you. Mm-hmm. And I think the message that comes across like even more clearly now is that it's really rooted in body autonomy. Mm-hmm. And I think that is so important for everyone to have the feeling that, you know, they can get this diagnosis, but also feel like they have power to do
Mhm.
that with their body, what they feel is the best choice for them.
Mhm.
And I think that that's where PCOS Power really shines through.
Yes. I think it's really important, like I was saying about like diets and diet culture and a person who diets versus diet culture, to like really discern the difference, because my whole goal, and I know Colleen, you agree with this, like our goal is like, I want you to feel like you are more powerful while living with PCOS. I want you to really own that you're expert of your body. And we all live with different experiences and different types of privilege and oppression. So your decision is going to be different based on that. And so, yeah, that's a really big part of this course, but also just like how we do our work. So I wanted to share with you the nuts and bolts about PCOS Power. It's a learning system with 9 modules based on my 20-year career working one-on-one with people with PCOS. It's the 9 modules are actually the framework that I've used. If you could imagine working one-on-one with me for a year, that is something that you would, over a year's time, you would basically be going through these 9 different modules. And so it's something that I've tried to really to like put into one place, so then more people can get access to it. And I'm really excited about how over the years I've been able to like make it more concise and more digestible, I guess, in this kind of format. Another part of PCOS Power is something called the Power Forward community. It's a community that coincides with the course that's hosted on Circle. We intentionally decided to not put it on Facebook, but we also hunted around for different places to do it because we like how Facebook groups work, but just don't like being on Facebook. So Circle is one that I was able to like integrate with the actual course. And that's where you can discuss the different modules with people and get more ideas on how to do things and just be alongside other people going through the same thing. We know a lot of people have PCOS, but I also know in real life, it's not something that's talked about. So that's why we were like, we need to have a community. So the Power Forward community will be a part of that. And something else I wanted to do was customize the experience. So if someone is loves to just learn things on their own and they don't really need any extra places to ask questions, then there's a self-guided option. And some of you may want to have a chance to do things like this, where we jump on a call and go through any kind of questions. Or you may actually want to do some like one-on-one work with me. So we have set it up to be different options to give you the type of interaction that you need. And it is designed for those who are maybe like Trinity, who are new to anti-diet intuitive eating, or those who are like TJ and firmly rooted in fat liberation. There's a lot for you no matter what, where you are in that kind of spectrum of learning to move away from PCOS diets. So a little bit more about the different types. Like I said, I wanted to customize it just to allow people to be able to get what they needed, and also like give people an option to actually work one-on-one with me. I haven't seen clients one-on-one for a long time. I've had some clients that I've seen over the last couple of years, but I haven't added new clients in. And I think like 5 years. So I wanted to give people an option to do that. And this is the only way to be able to work one-on-one with me. But like I said, there's a self-guided system that includes the whole framework and module system, a workbook, and the community, and you get 6 months to go through it. I picked 6 months because it usually takes about 3 to 6 months to start to feel a difference from these anti-diet types of tools to like feel more energized and improve your period length and things like that. We also have a guided option that includes monthly group coaching calls. If you were in my PCOS and Food Peace course, it's very similar to that. It coincides though a little bit more with the learning system for the first half, and then it's kind of what you need after that. And it also includes everything else like the 6 months access, the community, and the workbook. And then we have the premium option, which is the one if you are interested in working one-on-one with me, that's how you can do that. And I, of course, know the next question is always like, well, how much does that cost? I need to know how much it's going to cost. And so I have the prices here for you. It's $697 for the self-guided, $997 for the guided, and $1997 for the premium. I didn't mention though, too, the premium option, the other difference is it gives a person access to the group coaching calls and the learning system in the community for a whole year. It's not just 6 months access. And, something that is like a natural next question, I think, from seeing all this and seeing the price is like, okay, why is it so expensive? And, I honestly, I didn't tell my team this, but I was like, I wish it was free. Like, I wish this could be free. And I firmly believe the US government should be like subsidizing healthcare providers like me to provide this service. Like, this should be free. And it's not. Like, I'm not subsidized in any way by the US government, or by anyone. And this system, the thing that I was really intentional about is I want to include as much information that I would cover with an individual client in 1 year. And that would usually be weekly or every other week sessions. And that would end up being over $6,000. So it's condensing all of that into these packages, whether you do the self-guided, guided, or the premium option. The other thing that's really important too is that I don't believe in hustle and grind culture. It's something that burned me out. It's why I had to move away from one-on-one clients. And I don't want my team to be burned out either. So, and I also want them to be well compensated with access to enough rest. Like, I don't want them to have to work so many jobs and all these things. So pricing it this way, it allows my team to not have to hustle, grind, and wear themselves out. And that's a really important part of our culture and our team, is to make sure we have rest days and then we're not burning ourselves out. In the PCOS and food peace course, the way, after I had it for about a year, I figured out a system to allow for accessibility options for those who were financially not able to have access to the course. And I officially, for every 10 that were purchased, I would provide one course to someone who was experiencing financial hardship. And in the end, it ended up being closer to 1-to-1. And that's because I was able to really figure out a good system to deliver the course. And it was basically ended up being on autopilot. So I could do that. And so right now, my team and I are trying to figure out how can we do that too? How can, like, what are our possibilities? So just know, I want to be transparent. We don't have an option yet, but it's definitely something that I'm going to provide once I figure out how to do it without burning out my team and I. So, so I think that's everything I wanted to say with that. And so now I'm hoping that I can answer any questions you have. And as we are moving to that option, I have on here the dates on when the PCOS Power will be open to purchase. It's March 1st through March 10th. Something else, this is the other thing I wanted to mention, I knew I was forgetting something, is I usually have my courses just open to be purchased whenever, like an evergreen kind of model. I don't like the kind of push scarcity and things like that with open and closed carts. And when I was looking into doing that again, the chaos that would ensue, I think, with a new product, a new system, a new community, it was just feeling like, oh my gosh, that's going to be too much of that chaos that I think could lead to the hustle and grind stuff that I wanted to try to avoid. So for right now, we were like, okay, let's just have it open for 10 days. And then once we get this machine rolling, so we're taking care of everybody inside, then we can move to an evergreen model as soon as it works. And so I wanted to be transparent on that. And as we are opening up for questions, if you don't want to, I don't know, if you don't feel comfortable asking here, or you think of a question later, feel free to email us at info@juliedillonrd.com. We can answer any questions you have, and happy to answer that. So if you want to, Colleen, what's the best way to go through questions? You think just plop them in chat, or what do you think?
Yeah, I can kind of read some out that have
Okay.
been trickling in throughout the conversation. I'd also love to mention, I think Julie did a great job going over the benefits of the course, but something you get with all three that I just want to like highlight, because I've had eyes on this product, in particular the handbook, for a really long
Mhm.
time. That in and of itself to me is worth so much. It's a
Mhm.
huge
I forgot about that.
resource. It has journal prompts and steps that you can take to advocate for yourself with your healthcare provider. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a wealth of knowledge. I'm scratching the surface of what it includes. So I just want to make sure to highlight that like really valuable resource that no matter what option you
Mhm.
choose, you'll get. So yeah, great questions are coming in. One that came in that is I think really a thoughtful question is wondering if you've had any success with insurance companies reimbursing for a course taken.
So reimbursing, no. I haven't had that experience work out yet, but I have had people pay for my course in the past, the PCOS and Food Peace course. They were able to pay with an HSA or FSA debit card, so a healthcare spending account or a flex spending account. And when a person purchases through me, I think the word nutrition comes up, or health. I can look into exactly what pops up. And I think it just triggers it to be, okay, this is an expense that is part of healthcare. So I've had people successfully be able to do that. I haven't heard of anyone being denied of that, because I know there can be some risk if you like use that and it comes up flagged that you can be penalized. Nobody's ever come back and said, oh crap, I was penalized because it really didn't count. So I'm assuming that means that everyone who's tried it has worked, because I'm always like, tell me if it doesn't, because I want to make sure I warn people. So yeah, if you have an HSA or FSA, you may be able to use that.
Yeah, thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that. And I think that answers the question. Let us know if not. Feel free to
Yeah.
pop in another question if so. And then, of course, always email if you have anything else. How
Mhm.
beneficial would this new course be for someone who already took the Food Peace course?
Yes. Okay. So when I made the PCOS and Food Peace course in 2017, something that I now don't agree with is so much of it was based on your own mindset and how you are going to be walking in this world and just like experiencing PCOS. What I've come to appreciate is how so much of this is going to be based on experiencing the world and how we need to come together to change things. So there's more on advocacy. There's honestly more that's not on food. Like the PCOS and Food Peace course and this one too have components on food, but there's even more now on navigating healthcare, connecting PCOS experiences to the types of oppression that you live with, and then how we can come together. The other part is the PCOS and Food Peace course did not include a community or a Facebook group. And so that's something that I wanted to do differently this time as well. So, and there's not a workbook. I mean, there's like handouts and stuff, but not the same as the one that Colleen was mentioning. Like this workbook is a writable PDF that you can, you don't have to print out if you want to, or you can print it out. And it is so much, has so much more oomph to it.
So to recap your answer, Julie, I think it's just so much more. And I
Mhm.
think also updated information that
Mhm.
maybe is more accurate for the current
Yeah,
times.
that too. I forgot about
And
that too. Yeah, like
yeah,
there's
I
so
think
many different things that I have needed to update, like on the science, and there's more supplements and that I wanted to include this time around that people are always asking me that are included and have like a deep dive into the science behind them. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And I think that community aspect is huge. Having
Mhm.
a place to go where folks can connect with similar and different experiences living
Mhm.
with PCOS, I think is such an excellent piece of PCOS power. So I'm excited about that. Oh, this question is very exciting. When does the course officially begin?
Well, so you can officially start to purchase it March 1st, but our first module drops March 7th. So that's a Monday, March 7th, I believe. So then it would be through then. And then every week a new module gets released, and there's integration weeks. So every 3 modules, we take a week where we can just like kind of catch up. And we have if you're in the guided portion, you'll have a group coaching call. So yeah, every 3 weeks, there's a new module and then a break. And so you go through 12 weeks that way.
Great.
Mhm.
And I think it's a great question. And also I think it might be one of our last. So if you have any other questions, folks, now is the time. Julie is here to ask her anything. So definitely utilize this time, because Julie is an expert in her field and is a wealth of knowledge. So feel free to chime in with anything else.
See, this is how she earned the title Hype Woman.
Oh, goodness. Do you take into account the experience of menopausal people with PCOS in this course?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I wish I would have like included that in this, because that is so important to me. And it really highlights how PCOS healthcare is so focused on fertility. And honestly, the majority of the people that I've worked with over the years have either been pre-menopausal or post-menopausal. And I know the myth is like, oh, PCOS goes away when you're in menopause. And that is not the case. So what I know to be true is that as a person is in menopause and thereafter is where a lot of the metabolic sides of PCOS really start to be present. And that's a big part of this course. So just know that like, if you're someone who's like super fertility focused and like pursuing fertility treatment, I'm probably not the best choice. But if you're someone who's like, I want something that's going to help me learn tools for now and moving forward, so I have things throughout all the different seasons of my life, including menopause, then I'm a good fit for you. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. That's a great question.
Really great question. And I think too, what I love about PCOS Power is I do think there is something for everybody in there. So I think, mentioning that pre-diabetes and diabetes diagnosis, fatty liver, like the pre and post menopausal, there's so much information in there. Chances are there is something in there for you. And just so much information. So we have someone on the call actually who participated in our beta round of PCOS Power and has asked if we would be willing to discuss and compare the changes from the beta to today.
Yeah.
Which is a really fun question, because I feel like we have done so much.
I know. Because when we were putting the beta together, we're like, oh, well, now it's done. But then we're like, no, it's not.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, also the feedback that we got from the beta was so valuable. So thank you for those of you who are on the call that participated in the beta.
Yeah. Oh my God. And I had never done like a beta before. I've always just kind of been like, let's throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. But that was super helpful. And I felt like so honored that you provided feedback. And the big thing is, we changed the community setup. We had it, we definitely knew we did not want it on Facebook. And so we tried Slack, and it just wasn't a good fit. I think for just what the community needed, and probably not a good fit for me too. I don't know. I was like, Slack just didn't fit for me. It felt too much like work. I was like, this is something that's fun, and I wanted to look special. And so Circle kind of provides that. So that's one piece of it. The workbook is also different and included all together. Like once PCOS Power starts on the 7th, that's when the workbook is planned to be done. So that's another piece that's different. And then, I redid all the videos. So when I did the videos for PCOS Power, I was trying out different tech. And so for this one, I'm mic'd up and it's professionally edited. And on Zoom, if you're watching the recording, my face is this little tiny square. So we made it so it's clearer. You can actually see me and you can see the slide together. And I love my the person who does my audio editing for my podcast, he was like, oh, I can help you with the videos too. I was like, great. So thank you, Toby. So Toby made beautiful videos for this instead. Am I missing out on anything else that's different?
I'm trying to think. I think there were some content suggest changes as well. Maybe
Mhm.
trying to diversify some content
Mhm.
topics a little bit
Uh-huh.
more and
Mhm.
focus on each individual's experience. So I think we've done a great job of doing that
Mhm.
as well. So
Yeah. And I didn't mention this, but there's 4 guest experts that are inside PCOS Power with me, like that I either interview or they share a training. And so I did add another person to that. In the beta, there was just 3. So I'm excited to share about those things too.
great question. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah.
It's been really fun using the feedback to just make this course even better. So
Yeah, that was all Colleen. She was like, yeah, like do a beta. why like wonder and just like actually like make it and see what people say. So thanks,
yeah,
Colleen.
yeah, my pleasure. Will there be an option for a payment plan?
So that is something that I'm trying to figure out right now. If there is going to be a payment plan, it will be broken into 2. I'm just looking into options, just basically with Thinkific where it's hosted. Can I make it work? Is basically, so by having the 3 different types, I'm going to see if I can work some tech magic in the back end. So I don't know yet. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah.
Well, just so you know, we're keeping track of all of these questions, and we'll definitely, as things change and evolve, can keep everyone updated on our email list. So just stay tuned for questions that we're still working out.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is a great question. It's got a little bit of context first, so I'll read that and then get into the question. So someone said, I'm still not totally clear on how PCOS is diagnosed. It was originally suggested to me based on just my weight and excess facial hair, but then I've had hormone levels tested and have been told levels look fine. What I'm experiencing is insulin resistance, constant fatigue, and hunger. Would this be a good course for me? And do you discuss diagnosing pros? Thanks.
So first of all, this is like the textbook PCOS experience. I just think like, which I don't mean to laugh, but I'm like, it's just so ridiculous that y'all are not actually given like a firm yes or no. I know some of you are told yes and then told no, or you go Google and you're like, wait, no, I don't have all these. And how frustrating for you. So it's very common to have this big question mark. And so the first 3 modules, like the first part of the framework is really like, I want you to move out of those modules firmly understanding what PCOS is doing to your body. So like I go through like, this is actually what's happening, why it's not just your ovaries and how it's currently diagnosed. And, when someone tells me a similar lived experience as you're asking or that you describe, having signs of high androgens, but then also the fatigue and the cravings. If you hadn't been ever diagnosed with PCOS and you had those 3, I would be like, maybe it's time to go to a doctor to see if you have this. And honestly, having just the signs of high androgens with the facial hair is enough for some doctors. You don't even need to have clinical evidence through lab work of high androgen levels or testosterone, because like having it on your evidence on your face is enough for many doctors. So then it would just be if you had any issues with ovulation or any cysts, of course, quote cysts on your ovaries, they're not cysts, to technically be diagnosed with PCOS at this point. You would just have to have one of those other 2. And it sounds like, unless I missed it in the question, Colleen, it sounds like neither one of those 2 were really mentioned. And, an OB/GYN is oftentimes the best person to diagnose PCOS just because they're so used to like the whole ovulation thing. And, but yeah, sometimes even just like a regular doctor will do it too. And if you're not sure if you have it and you're like, oh, well, this course sounds so perfect for me. I like would prefer someone to have at least had a doctor say that they have it before purchasing it, just because sometimes people have gone through the course and then they realize, oh no, I don't have PCOS. And that sucks. That sucks for everybody. Like, I don't want it to be a waste of time for you. And so either, and I say that too, because there may be some people listening who are like, I know I don't have PCOS, but I have a lot of cravings or I have high insulin levels, but it's been ruled out. PCOS has been ruled out. I still think you're not a good fit too for PCOS Power. I can definitely like give you names of other people who have similar products that are for people without PCOS. But yeah, I don't know. I hope that answers everything, Colleen. Does it?
Yeah. I think so. And feel free, if you have additional questions, again, feel free to chat those in or email us. So the last piece that we have is more of positive feedback and reinforcement. So I want to read those and share them. We're out of questions, but again, feel free to reach out if you have any. We are more than happy to touch base with you and answer any of your personalized questions behind the scenes. Not a question, but a comment. I started taking ovofolic supplement I found on your website /podcast and have been using for almost 2 months. I have just got my period back after not having it for 3 months. Thank you.
Yay. Oh, that felt so much better.
Yes.
Oh,
and
that's so good.
The last positive reinforcement we have here is from one of our beta participants. Thank you. I am so excited for everyone to get the wonderful help you offer. I feel empowered going through the beta course. So
that's exactly what we want. Like,
yes.
More than anything, I want you to connect with that power that you have as you're moving through life with PCOS. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Yes. So that's it in our chat.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, Colleen, for helping me out with that first off. And thank you so much, those who were here live. And if you're watching the replay, thank you so much for, letting us have some of your time. And like we said, if you are wanting more information or you have questions, seriously, email us info@juliedillonrd.com. We will answer your questions. And, March 1st is when PCOS Power will be open up for purchase. And if you would like to make sure you stay in the loop, just make sure that you're on my email list and you'll get an email that lets you know about it. And if you're not sure, you can also email us and we'll double check to make sure.
Yes, please do that. If you're not sure if you're on the list, please email info@juliedillonrd.com and I will personally check to make sure that you are.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.